Her name is ADINA, and I've got Emily, one of our lovely keepers, who'll be taking ADINA out on her daily enrichment walk. Now, we hope you've been enjoying all of our live streams. Make sure you tune in tomorrow, as we'll be once again risking our lives and feeding Elvis, our giant saltwater crocodile. So I hope to see you for that. But also too, every day at 10 AM you can catch Tim Faulkner with Animal Tales with Tim Faulkner, educational videos about our amazing Australian wildlife. Now, if you're from Australia or from overseas, you might have heard the name dingo before. They're fairly iconic, particularly if you're from this country of ours. Now, this is ADINA, and we have two dingoes that live here at the Reptile Park. ADINA is our female dingo. We also have a male dingo, and his name is Fred. Now, ADINA is 7 years old. Now, in captivity, dingoes can live anywhere up to 20 years of age. It's a little bit different for their wild counterparts. Wild dingoes will typically live between 5 and 10 years. So we think ADINA will live here maybe for another 10 or so years, and how lucky. She's one of the friendliest dingoes I've ever worked with. You can see how happy she's getting a few scratches off her keeper, Emily. Now, we take them out on these daily enrichment walks for a couple of different reasons. Obviously, exercise is great for any animal. Dingoes walk kilometres out in the wild to find food, so we encourage that behaviour by taking them throughout the entirety of the reptile park. So she gets to walk for about an hour every single day. So does Fred. But also too, the enriching smells, sights and sounds that she can pick up as she walks through the whole park. She gets to say hello to the alligators behind your shoulders there on the camera, and all the other keepers as they walk through the reptile park. She loves coming over and getting right up nice and close, getting a pat and trying to lick you on the face. Now, dingoes are obligate carnivores, which means they only eat meat. They'll predate on any small to medium-sized mammal. So you're talking about wallabies, kangaroos as well. Now, here at the park, the favourite food for our dingoes is kangaroo or beef. They tend to prefer that over something like chicken. And in the wild, they play a very important ecological niche as a top-line predator. Where you'll find dingoes, you'll also find areas that are suppressed of cats and foxes in particular. Why that's important is because that helps protect our small mammals in particular, but also our native bird and reptile species. You see, feral cats and foxes will decimate our native wildlife. In areas where you naturally find dingoes, they suppress those numbers and keep the fox and cat in check. But also too, because they feed on larger herbivore species like kangaroos, they help maintain the land as well. Now, dingoes are only found on the mainland of Australia. You won't find dingoes in Tasmania. All right, it's time to go for a walk, Em. Let's go, let's get her moving. So you won't find dingoes in Tasmania, and dingoes have been in Australia, we're off, for around 4,000 years, and they naturalised, and our prey species definitely associate dingoes as a predator. Why that's important? Because they know to avoid them. Oh, we're back. There we go. Now, dingoes in the wild, they will breed once a year, and this is how they can differ from domesticated dogs in particular. She really wants to go this way. We're going to go this way. We might have to change the cameras to the other side, I think, and follow her as we go this way. There we go. So how they differ from dogs is dogs can breed throughout the entirety of the year. It's a little bit different for a dingo. Dingoes will breed in May and June. The female dingo will have a gestation period of around 8 to 9 weeks, so just over 2 months. And a dingo will have anywhere between 4 and 6 pups at a time. Now, what's also cool about dingoes and how they differ from other dogs, and you can see their relationship with wolves, is they actually have those pups inside a den. Now, these dingo puppies will then emerge around spring, and obviously they grow very, very quickly, and they have to. Because they've got to adapt to a really harsh Australian environment, they grow much faster than a domesticated dog would. They grow very, very quickly, and they need to learn how to fend for themselves extremely quickly. Now, a fully grown dingo might reach weights of around 20 to 30 kilograms, that's maximum. And you can see ADINA today, her body shape, she's very thin, and that's how wild dingoes typically look. They're not meant to be really large, robust animals. They'll get nowhere near as big as a really large domesticated dog species. They won't even get as heavy as something like a German Shepherd. Now, if you've ever heard a German Shepherd bark, like my German Shepherd at home, Cooper, they have a really loud, prominent bark. Another difference with dingoes is dingoes don't typically bark. Instead, they'll let off a big yelp or howl. And every morning when we arrive at the park, you hear the dingoes start to call out to their keepers so they can get some of their favourite types of food. And you can see the advantage of having the eyes on the front of their head, but also the ears pointed towards the front. That's obviously going to help them when they're trying to hunt. And dingoes will actively try and hunt down in a pack things like kangaroo. There's some amazing footage of dingoes doing this out in the wild, actively hunting things like kangaroo. But also too, they will feed on carrion, so animals that have already recently perished. And that's a great way to find food without having to exert yourself through actively hunting, which will, of course, maintain resources for yourself. You're not burning as much energy if you're feeding on carrion food. But again, they do have the ability in a pack. They'll usually follow one particular male or female. They'll hunt down a kangaroo, and obviously they'll eat as much as they need to in that short period of time. Oh, we're going to try and get her to move a little bit. Let's see where she wants to walk. But you can see, following her nose, picking up the different scents, she's heading pretty much straight back towards her enclosure, her exhibit, which is on the other side of the park. So she's following her nose, she's picking up the different scents that she might find. She's probably smelling exactly the path that Fred would have worked on this morning. Now, you're getting a great shot of Adina right now. That's her best angle, isn't it? Did you want to try and get to the front? Ahead. We're going to run up ahead? Beautiful. Now, Emily, you were saying before that one of Adina's favourite things to do is to come up in the morning and give you a scratch and a cuddle. Does she do that every day?
Kisses. Loves kisses. She loves to say hello to every single person on her walk and make sure that everybody gets kisses.
Oh, that's good.
Her favourite thing in the world.
Yeah, she's beautiful. And you will get dingoes in various different types of colour too, which a lot of people don't realise. So Adina is the more common tan colour that you would usually associate with a dingo. Oh, there we go. There's a couple of little licks there. But also too, you have your alpine dingoes, which are white, your forest dingoes, which are black, and Fred, our male dingo, is actually a black dingo, but they only make up a very, very small percentage of the coloration of dingoes out in the wild. Now, they are facing different threats, obviously hybridising with domesticated dogs or feral dogs, but also too, because they are not always seen, they are seen sometimes as a pest, particularly from agricultural workers. They want to keep dingoes off their land, and unfortunately dingoes still to this day are illegally baited, but also illegally shot. These animals play such an important role in our Australia's mainland ecosystem. We need to protect the dingoes and ensure their safety for the future. Now, there has been at times some negative interactions from the dingo towards people as well, but whenever I've seen dingoes out in the wild, they're always so shy. They don't want to come near you. The reason people generally have these negative interactions with dingoes is people begin to feed dingoes. They start associating people with food, and there has been times with dingo attacks. You should always respect a dingo, respect that it's a wild animal, and always give them their space that they deserve, and hopefully you'll never have a bad interaction with a dingo. As I said before, they're naturally very, very shy animals. They do want to stay away from humans. We're a much larger potential predator than what they're usually feeding on, so they do see you as a threat, so they will try and avoid you. But people feeding dingoes does encourage dingoes to come towards people, which could then entail people being bitten by a dingo, maybe accidentally. So always respect that they're a wild creature and leave them alone.
Alright, Dan, do you want to answer some questions?
Yes, please. Love questions.
How many puppies can they have in a litter?
Great question. Now, usually between 4 and 6. So after a gestation period of just over 2 months, 4 to 6 puppies will be born, and it doesn't take them very long to grow at all. They grow extremely quick, much quicker than a domesticated dog would, because obviously that adaptation to surviving in the wild. Get big quick and start to learn how to look after yourself.
What do dingoes like to eat?
So in the wild, they'll feed on anything that's a medium to small mammal. So up to a kangaroo, maybe a wallaby, potentially wombat, possums. That makes up the majority of their food.
Do they make good pets?
The thing with dingoes is, one, they're escape artists. They can climb anything, so they don't always make the best pets. Also, two, they're very high energy. So 99 times out of 100, you can't provide the needs that a dingo has to maintain them as a pet animal. You're much better off with a Labrador at home than you are with a dingo. We have to provide our dingoes with a huge exhibit. We also have very, very high fences, and we need to walk them consistently. But also, too, dingoes don't lose that natural predation instinct. So if the dingo escaped or if something got inside that enclosure or the exhibit with the dingo, they will try and kill it. Same if they escape the enclosure. So as a pet, not the best animal. Much better to see them out in the wild or maybe at a zoo or wildlife park.
Is it true that dingoes can't bark?
There we go. You're going to try and do it then to prove us wrong. So dingoes don't bark the same way a dog will, particularly wild dingoes, but they still howl. And they can howl really, really loudly. Sometimes it's like a wolf going off. It's really, really cool to hear.
All right, one last question. Are all dingoes the same colour?
No, so even here at the reptile park, we have 2 dingoes. They're different colour. So right now we're looking at the more iconic tan colour that most people associate with dingoes, but you can also get black dingoes and white dingoes in the alpine region. So they can come in a few different colours.